Hi, everyone. Welcome to our One World Energy connection with the Zohar. This week's portion is Chukat. In our version of the Zohar, it's volume 18, and we're going to be at volume 1. And as we do each week, I'd like to invite in the lineage of Kabbalists that this is my list. People probably have other lists, but these are the people that I always feel most connected to and believe that I get inspiration from. So that's the Rav and Karen and Michael, Rabbi Schlag, Rabbi Brandwein, the Bia Kodesh, Ramchal, Rabbi Tafon, Rabbi Ramazulai, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Tepsk, Rabbi Kolona Mishapir Pia Setznan, the Baal Shem Tov, Rabbi Shimon Bayachai, and all the students from Mordechai of Chernobyl, One Soul with Yosef Tzadik and Shechem. As we connect to these verses, let's consciously think about, while we occupy the 1% realm, we are connecting to the 99% realm, the upper realm, the flawless universe, the Garden of Eden, the level of Binah, the realm of fulfillment. And this is why we talk about, even though we experience lack in our life, the fulfillment is there. And so we want to really go through life fulfilled. I know we don't feel it, but that's part of the illusion. So we want to really go through life as if the fulfillment is already there, because at some level it is. And in that vein, let's channel the energy of healing for those we know who need healing. Chana bat Rivka, Sarah bat Miriam,
Sarah bat Malka, Sarah bat Yehudit.
And also send energy of elevation to those souls we know that are in the process of elevating. Also, let's connect to the energy of Ahavat Chinam, unconditional love. This is this month of Tammuz of Cancer. Today is, I want to say, the 6th. Let's double check that. Today is the 6th of Tammuz. The 17th of Tammuz, which is another 11 days, begins the period of 3 weeks, which are a very challenging period of time historically. But it's not about the history. It's about the energy that's present in those 3 weeks. It's a very challenging energy. And so there are restrictions that we take also during those 3 weeks. But those 3 weeks also have to do with the destruction of both temples. The temple siege began on the 17th of Tammuz. And the temple was destroyed actually on the 9th of Av. So those 3 weeks are very heavy. It's a very heavy period of time. So we're approaching that. And so we also want to think about the things that are going on in the world where there is a lot of negativity. And so as we connect to the Zohar, let's also keep in mind treating Havat Chinam, treating everyone with human decency. The temple was destroyed, the Talmud says, because of Sinat Chinam, baseless hatred. The opposite of that is unconditional love. So we want to channel that energy at all times, but especially now. Also, the energy of treating everyone with human decency, ending the war in Israel, the safe return of all the hostages, the protection for all the chayalim who are trying to free those hostages. Also ending the war between Poland and the Ukraine, keeping everyone, all those innocents who are in harm's way, safe. Let's also channel the energy of protection from evil eye and protection from evil speech, and removing chaos and negativity from our world. Okay.
Hey, David, you said Poland and Ukraine. You mean Ukraine and Russia, right?
Yes. Good point.
You said
that. I know Poland right now is fine.
Yeah. No, I just thought for since it's being recorded, I thought we'd make sure we had the right energy.
Yeah, because we don't really edit. Not we don't really, we don't. Okay, thank you for pointing that out. Let's send energy protection to also Poland, because I think that they feel pretty threatened. So maybe that's what that was about. Verse 1. Again, it's the portion is Chukat, and it's volume 18. V'daber Hashem el Moshe ve'el only more zot Chukat Torah. And I'm just going to break for this point. That is the opening verse of this week's Torah reading. Asher tzivah Hashem le'mor v'gomer. Rabbi Yossi Patach v'zot Torah asher sam Moshe l'pnei b'nei Israel. Tachazeh milin oraita kadeshin inun ilain inun mitikin inun. Kama dechtiv hanechamadim mizahavim mipaz rav umutukim midavash v'gomer. Mandi shadal b'oraita kilu kaim kol yoma al tura d'sinai v'kabil oraita. Hadu dechtiv hayom hazeh niyeta la'am v'ha'ukmuha chabraya.
And Hashem spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, "This is the ordinance of the Torah which Hashem has commanded."
Okay, so before we get into it, I wanted to read what Rav Berg said about this portion, and this is in his writings on the Torah, on the Bible, from my Kabbalistic Chumash, my Kabbalistic Bible. So the title is Chukat. So that's the name of the portion, and that's what the quote is. This is the ordinance of the Torah which Hashem has commanded. So Chukat gets translated as ordinance, meaning laws, ordained laws. Perhaps that's why it's ordinance. But here's what the Rav says about that. The word Chukat means laws, ethics, and decrees. From a Kabbalistic point of view, we know the Bible is not about laws and actions that we have to do. Now, this is a really important point. What do you mean it's not about laws? Honor thy mother and thy father. The commandments aren't laws that we have to abide by? Well, the Rav is saying, Kabbalistically, the Torah itself is not about laws and actions that we have to do. And as a matter of fact, the 10 Commandments gets translated as 10 Commandments. But the Hebrew, the biblical Hebrew for that is Aseret HaDibrot. Aseret, 10. HaDibrot comes from the word dibur, which is speech, which is utterances. So a more accurate and literal translation is they're the 10 utterances, not commandments. And the thing about commandments we should keep in mind is it's like this is where dogma comes from. You must do this. That's the law. You must drive under 55. And if you exceed the speed limit, in theory, you're going to get a ticket. Or if you shoplift, in theory, you're going to get arrested. Like those are laws. Those are secular laws. And so we're familiar with laws. And so it makes sense that we would look at a book of laws and ethics as these are laws, but they're not the same. And that's what the Rav is about to tell us. And he's saying it's not about laws and actions that we have to do. Instead, the Bible is about the universal law of cause and effect. That's what we're learning. That's what this is telling us, that there's cause and effect. And that is part of the universal way. It's how the universe is wired. We should never undertake any actions without knowing why we're doing them and what and whom we are affecting by them. It's a super powerful line. Because if you're doing things blindly out of dogma, you're not thinking about what and whom we are affecting by them. And so the Rav is saying that we need to think about the impact of the things that we do and what impact it's having on the people around us. When studying the Bible, which teaches us about our own lives, we should always apply its lessons to search out the reasons behind all of our actions. So what he's saying is this study, whether it's Bible study or it's Zohar study, it's about us. It must have, in my words, because I don't know how he would say it, present moment relevance in our life. If it doesn't have present moment relevance in our life, we're missing something. Because it's all relevant. Everything you're doing is relevant to your life, and your study is no different. The only question is, what is it? Search out the reasons behind all of our actions. In this way, we will understand our own karmic impulses and influences, as well as our tikkun, correction process. That's the whole point. You and I, each of us, will look at this section in a different way. Based on what? Based on our life experiences in this life and in prior life. Because whether we realize it or not, we are attuned at some level to the work we came here to do, the work our soul came here to do. And so it's personal. I don't mean they'll think it personally. I mean, it's personal in that it's customized. It's like going to the tailor and getting the same garment fitted for your particular body type. I mean, some people can wear stuff off the rack. I'm just saying, like, generally speaking, it's customized. Our life experience is customized. Our perception, of course, is customized. It's customized by our experiences. And it's also customized by the messages the universe is sending us. And we're getting different messages. This is why I think it's so important, and I encourage you all to share what comes up for you when we're reading the Zohar. You think it's not important. Let us be the judge of that. No, you think it's not important. It's important. It's coming up. I'm hoping I get the right messages when we study this. But often the message is coming from someone who's actually participating in the class. This is the cocktail that we are drinking right now. It's us studying something where we're all bringing something different to this consciousness. Our individual consciousness is different. If it was two of us studying, it'd be different than 6 of us, than 10 of us, than 12 of us, than 100 of us. It's going to be different. The energy is going to be different. So it's individualized. And that's the way we need to think of it. And like, lest you think that this is so, it sounds so outrageous. It's not, though, because rabbis constantly, when people come to them for questions, they don't give an answer without considering the circumstances of the person asking the question. And that's in every situation. So when you encounter people who are just looking at things like they're black and white, they're not. That's not to say they may not be black and white for them. Maybe they are. But they're not black and white it's not the same. Our experiences are different. Our needs are different. Our spiritual journey is different. And circumstances dictate how we're going to view what's going on. That is what the Rav means when he says, we understand our own karmic impulses and influences, as well as our own correction process. Our perception of this study is based on what we came here to do. Yes, Roshan?
Yeah, I have a quick question. That makes it sound to me as though the connection between us and our physical lives and our perception of ourselves, like if we have one, of the potential of having our soul doing its work through us, how does that work? I mean, it seems like I happen to accept that as a bit, a condition, but a lot of people don't. And I'm thinking, how do you explain how that connection happens?
There's an album I'm listening to right now, and the title of it is called You Are Not the One Behind Your Face. It's a very long title.
I'm sorry, what was the last thing you said?
The title is You Are Not the One Behind Your Face.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
Now, who is behind your face? Well, this is why consciousness is so important. Because we have a body consciousness, which is we define as our selfishness, our needs, our desire to receive for the sake of sharing, our desire to receive for the sake of self. And we have our soul and our soul needs and what our soul came here to do, which is the desire to receive for the sake of sharing. And we get caught up in body conscious because that is the dominant force. Because you can't go swimming and not get wet. It's not possible. I mean, I suppose you put a wetsuit on, but still. You can't go swimming and not get wet. You can't incarnate in this world and not be overrun by body consciousness. You're wet. You got a body. That's my metaphor. So that's the overriding consciousness. But when I can rise above body consciousness, when I can think about the greater good, when I can identify, I mean, this happens to me all the time. I mean, I'm sorry to lower your view of me in your mind, but I'm going to share. Like, I judge all the time. I constantly catch myself judging. I mean, we all do, but I'm just saying, like, I do. But I'm trying to catch myself. I'm like, why am I in this frame of mind? I literally couldn't get out of bed this morning. I mean, I did, but I couldn't. Who do you think that was? Soul? Because soul is like, embrace the day. But I didn't hear that. I did not sleep as much as I wanted to.
If I may, Roshan asked, right, your question actually was, how do you explain it to somebody? And I think Ron's nodding his head, yes. So the point is, I would say, in some sense, you can never explain, if I'm talking to an astrophysicist, and he's trying to explain something to me, it's going to go like this, right? Because I don't have the educational training to understand what he's trying to articulate. I think, is sort of as David's alluding to, the only thing that I think we can do, or I'm starting to come around to, because I think as a Cancerian, we always wanted to help people. And what I'm realizing, right, the more we do our work, right, we're focused on ourselves. And so all you can do is articulate sort of maybe where you're coming from. So the idea is, as David has distinguished between body and soul, is, look, I've got my physical body, and there's something inside me that I believe connects me to the creator, right? And that's how I view the world. And anything that I do, I try to look at and say, is it coming from that piece that's connected to God, or is it that piece that's connected to my physical being? And you've, in some sense, now shared with that other person without telling them, I'm trying to tell you how it is, right?
Ron, please. Yes. That, very good, Peter. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think you really can explain it to people if they're not in this conversation that we're in. You know what I mean? So I think that you have to meet people where they're at, you know, like you have to know like what they can understand, what they can comprehend, what they can hear, maybe, and then meet them at that level, and then see if you could take it further, right? I don't know, that's what and the other thing I wanted to say about that is like what you were saying about advice, like people are just so like people will freely give you their opinion and their advice, and like but you don't understand the impact of what, like, you know, what might happen if you take that advice.
Ron, what Ron said is really good. And by the way, our job, I don't know if our job truly is to, you know, grab them and bring them over, right? You've got to find it, right? You got to, you know, the individual has to find it. And I'm thinking that, our niece and nephew were over at our house last night for dinner with their daughter, and the son and niece and nephew were talking about some of the challenges that they were having with their parents, with one set of parents. And we obviously know them well because one of them is my wife's brother. And the point I'm trying to make is, I offered up, again, very simply, I offered up, you know, many spiritualities believe that we choose our parents in this lifetime. And we've chosen our parents because of the work that we need to do. And all I said was, so this is an opportunity for you to look and say, why is that coming up? Why are the challenges coming up? And what can you change? Which is, for us, very basic. But you could just see the nodding of the heads. It was like, wow, right? It's a whole, you know, so yeah. How can you offer it up without being, you know, it's sort of what Ron said. How do you offer it up for, if they can grasp a little bit, great. And if they want more, they can ask.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I mean, I think intuitively we sometimes get a sense for what someone can handle, what they can. And I think it was Ron who just said, it's like you got to meet them where they are, which is always super important. So it's like, it's very hard. I once had a conversation with some guy. I mean, people say the most ridiculous things to me all the time, but he's like, he said to me, someone asked, and I said, listen, that's, I think it's important to, connect to soul. And he said, by the way, brilliant guy. I mean, legit brilliant guy. He said, I don't have a soul. I don't believe I have a soul. So like, I couldn't resist. I'm like, because his wife is sitting there. I'm like, does she have one? I shut him up. I really shut him up pretty quickly. It's hard. And I think, part of what our job is, keep in mind, if you are confronted, Suzanne, I'm going to let you talk to you in 1 second. If you are confronted with a situation where someone's actually asking you, like I used to not want to share with anyone this stuff. Early on, I was just way too sensitive about the criticism. Now it's like, there's no secrets. But I would say to myself, okay, I'm not going to share this randomly, but if someone comes over and asks me about it, if they open the door, then I need to find some way to explain to them what's going on. And so I think that I literally was putting body consciousness aside to address what the universe was sending me. In other words, you can't keep this a secret. But that doesn't mean you should be sharing it willy-nilly. I don't believe you should. But if someone I don't believe that that's what we're here to do. I don't believe we're here to just, scream this from the hilltops. It's not gonna necessarily, it might create more conflict than we need. But if someone comes over and asks you, or, we have to say that is the universe sending this person to me. They need something. And so I genuinely search for what is it that they need? What is it they need to hear? What is it they need support on? How can I help them on their journey? And I think that's a very different approach. And so we're answering your question, but not in the way that, there is no there's no mathematical formula for this. That's the problem. It's a great question now. Suzanne?
Yeah, like what was the question?
It's like if you have somebody that, you're trying to explain that, as I'm hearing it, but, Roshan can correct me. How do you explain this idea of like your lower consciousness versus your higher consciousness?
Oh, yeah, got it. Okay, yeah. I mean, I think that really is part of the solution for the week. Like I noticed repeatedly, I'm in this position right now where I am mentoring a lot of people. When you're the leader, right? And it's all about mentoring. It's all about mentoring. And so they come from different places and spaces. And oh my God, I'm used to running with the pack. Like my career in the past was running with the fast track, high performers, whatever. It's an agency, it's competitive, and you're just killing it all day long, right? And solving the problem, moving to the next thing. And you've got really bright people. Okay, so now it's not like that in particular. Like I'm helping people get better at their craft, like coaching. And so it's really fascinating where my intolerance, my impatience, which is the whole energy of the week, okay, right? Like overcome your impatience.
By the way, it's gonna get more difficult. I'm just saying it's gonna get more difficult.
But the cool part is I get to have these moments, thank God, like, to connect with, I have my own spiritual connection because I really wouldn't want to see my life evolve without these pauses, without this spiritual connection, without this tether, if you will, without this opportunity. And it's really kind of cool to take these pauses and then reframe it and look at, go back to what Ronnie was saying. Well, all of you guys are saying this, really. It's just go back to where they're at and try and give them a different point of view. In fact, right before I got on this call, I was texting someone, as coaches, we need to align, so I took your comment down and, that's so nobody starts like jumping on me, because I'm you have to motivate someone to get out of their comfort zone.
Right. And
I'm explaining the whole picture.
Everybody, again, it's like whether it's in a work situation, in a personal situation, interpersonal situation, spiritual study situation, everybody is
Yeah.
coming to this from a different place. Yes, Ron. Thank you, Suzanne.
I just want to share one more thing. Like piggybacking on what you said about like you judge people all the time. I mean, I do too all the time, right? And it just made me remember. It was actually like right before Shavuot. I was with my friend who's a very, very, very devout Buddhist, like chants every day, like very. And she asked me about the holiday. She's like, "Can you tell me what is Shavuot about?" I'm like, "Oh boy." And I just couldn't find the word, you know what I mean? Like how you say you can't explain it, right? And then we got to talking about how she, you know, like she would judge people about their actions and where they're at. And I'm like, oh my God, like I judge people all the time, right? I mean, it's like nonstop. But like I was saying, like what I started to think was like, well, who am I to judge anybody on their journey? Right. And I think that that really helps me because it's like, well, I really don't know where like what everyone is going through. I have no idea. So then it's kind of like a relief, right? Like, well, okay, then you know, like I don't have to think about that anymore, right? Just move on.
Yeah, I think I mean, a major benefit of this, not a conversation, but this section in this week's energy is that is the enlightened consciousness. It really, I'm saying I judge, I know it's in your judge, but really it's body consciousness that's doing the judgment because it's body consciousness that's plugged into this competitive environment, this human race, if you will. It's like, that's who's making the judgment. Your elevated consciousness doesn't care. Your elevated consciousness knows that you came here to do work. And so, you know, it's hard enough for us to make that conscious distinction. But explaining it, and we can talk about it, but even we struggle with that constantly. Okay. I would say maybe the only answer is to have them read Michael Singer's The Untethered Soul, because I think he does a really good job of it, of making that distinction.
Should we get back to the English?
Yes, let's go. Good point.
All right. Rabbi Yossi opened the discussion saying, and this is the Torah which Moses set before the children of Israel. Come and behold, the words of Torah are holy, lofty, and sweet. As it is written, more to be desired are they than gold, and much fine gold, sweeter also than honey.
Now, we're studying a translation of the Zohar done by Rav Ashlag, which is called the Sulam. That verse that you just read, sweeter than honey, is written umitukim in the Aramaic. It's actually Hebrew. Umitukim midavash. Mitokud midavash is actually the name of another translation we don't use, since I think it's a less popular translation. But it's just so interesting that that's how what the author used to title his translation of the Zohar. Mitokud midavash, sweeter than honey. Is it sweeter than honey? Do you know anything that's sweeter than honey? Obviously, it's a metaphor, but it's something to think about. Like honey to the taste is what the Zohar is to your soul.
David, I think agave is sweeter than honey.
What's that?
I think agave is sweeter than honey.
Right, it might be, I don't know. But like
Oreos, guys.
Oreos. So, you know, nowadays there's a lot of other things, but I'm just saying, like how are we to understand sweeter than honey? How are we to understand, what does that mean? It's like this text, the Torah, these words that are delivering energy from the upper realm is nourishment to our soul. And by nourishment, I mean it makes it stronger. It strengthens our soul consciousness so that we can see beyond our body consciousness. That's so much of what's going on here. And to the Rob's point, like he says, we should never undertake any actions without knowing why we're doing them. Why? Because when you do something without knowing the reason, you're basically hardening your heart. You're creating more of distance between your body consciousness and your soul consciousness. Exactly the opposite of why we're here. Okay, keep going.
It is as if whoever studies the Torah stands every day at Mount Sinai and receives the Torah. This is what.
Wait a second. What happened there? What do you mean? The Zohar is telling us it is as if, so let's say it is like when you're studying the Torah every day. Well, is whoever studies the Torah every day at Mount Sinai, it's like this study, it's like we're at Mount Sinai right now. Are we? What does that mean? We're at Mount Sinai. What happened at Mount Sinai? The channels were wide open. We'd achieved immortality. The channels to the upper realm, to the flawless universe, to the Garden of Eden, to immortality, to the death of death, to the end of pain and suffering in the world. That's what was going on at Mount Sinai. This is before the sin of the golden calf. But that's what was going on. And so when you're studying Torah, this is what you're connecting to. The Gemara Tikkun. It's like we're connecting to the manifestation of the flawless universe in our world. But are we really doing? Yeah, that's why we set our consciousness in the beginning of study each week to bring that energy into this world. It's precisely what we're doing. Go ahead.
This is what it says. This day you are become a people, and the friends have already set the explanation.
So that's like what, statehood? Declaration of Independence? we got our United Nations Charter. What does it mean? You become a people. It's a collective consciousness. That's what we had at Mount Sinai. A shared consciousness. There wasn't any debate as to what was going on. It was clear. It was unified. There was a unity not only of the people, but there was a unity between the Creator and the people. That's why the metaphor for Shavuot is a wedding between upper realm and lower realm, between the Creator and the children of Israel. It was a moment of unity. Does that exist? Yeah, that's what we're trying to create. We're trying to break down the differences. We experience, our body consciousness experience a world that is in pieces, but it's not. It's all unified. And so among the great takeaways of this is an elevation of our consciousness, an understanding of the importance of understanding what these things mean to me on my journey. And ultimately, even though our journeys are different, the paradox is we're still unified. We're still all working together. Okay, let's try one more. Verse 2. Ketiv hacha zot chukat haTorah. Ketiv zot haTorah ma ben hai lahai el raza ilahu v'hachi olifna v'zot haTorah. Lachza'a kol b'yichud achad ul achlala knesset Israel b'kudsha brichu b'ishtacha kol achad b'ginei kach v'zot haTorah. Amai tosefet vav elahai itmar lachza'a del kol achad b'la peruda v'zot. Klalu frat kachada, dechar v'nukpa. V'gin kach v'zot haTorah vadai, aval zot b'la tosefet vav, chukat Torah vadai, v'la haTorah dinat oraita, gezerah oraita.
It is written here, this is the ordinance of the Torah, and it is also, and this is the Torah. But it is not written the ordinance.
Okay, so in one hand it says it's the ordinance of the Torah, and the other hand it's written this is the Torah. Why does it say ordinance in one case and not another? Peter, you want to keep going?
Do you want, I didn't know if,
Yeah, yeah,
I thought you were waiting for someone to answer. Okay.
no.
What is the
Oh, it's
difference?
rhetorical.
What is the difference between this and that? He responds, it is a lofty secret, and that is what we learn. The words, and this is the Torah, are to show that all is one, is in one unison, and to unite the congregation of Israel.
Okay,
That's-
so on the one hand, when it says just the Torah, it's about unity. It's about this unification. Go ahead.
That is Zerampin. Wait. Congregation of Israel. That is Malchut. With the Holy One, blessed be He. That is Zerampin. So that all will be one. Therefore, and this is the Torah, why is there an addition of and to this? It is only to show that as we are taught, all is one without division.
We
The word-
perceive the world of fragmentation. That is your body consciousness. It's an illusion. And that's part of what we are trying to see. Because, it's easy to have a hard time with somebody, but then like when you're with them, it's a little harder to, unless they're triggering you. But I'm just saying, generally speaking, it's easy to judge people when they're afar. But when they're around, it's much harder because you're making a soul connection at a certain level. And that is a connection of unity. Go ahead.
The words in this indicate the general and the particular, namely male and female combined together. Since Vav is male, that is Zerampin, which is general, and this is female, meaning
And the
Malchut.
word this in quotes. Yes.
Is female, meaning Malchut, which is particular.
Okay, because in this world, again, it's fragmented, it's particular, and Zerampin is general, it's unified. And so together, it creates this unification. Go ahead.
Therefore, it is assuredly written, and this is the Torah, to indicate Zerampin and the Nukva in one unison.
Okay, so that's why, so the Zohar is explaining to us why the verses show up differently, with different letters and different words. Go ahead.
However, this, without the additional Vav, is specifically the ordinance of the Torah, which is Malchut, that is considered the ordinance.
Because in our world, it's a world of cause and effect with a delay. Like Malchut, we do stuff and we don't see the consequences right away. In the upper realm, there is no delay between cause and effect. Therefore, you're never going to pick your friend's pocket in the upper world, because the minute you take the money out of his pocket and stick it in yours, it shows up back in his. There is no way. Cause and effect are immediate. Here, you take money out of your friend's pocket, stick it in yours, you actually walk around with more money, giving us the opportunity to correct for those selfish acts. So there's a delay between cause and effect. Go ahead.
And it emanates from Zerampin, which is considered the Torah, but it is not the Torah itself, which is Zerampin. It is only the law of the Torah, the decree of the Torah, which is Malchut.
Okay, so we're making this distinction between the way the upper realm works and the way our realm works. The way the rules of the 99% world are different than the rules in the 1% world. And again, because body consciousness is so dominant, because our desire to receive for the self is so dominant in this world, we get rules to assist us in overcoming. But it has to be free choice. If it's not free choice, you're not accomplishing anything. There's no consciousness. If you're just doing something for the sake of doing it, where's the free choice? As opposed to I'm doing it for the sake of doing it because I am trying to connect to soul. I'm trying to elevate my consciousness. And by elevating my consciousness, I'm trying to elevate the consciousness of the world. And that's the difference. And that's what we're trying to do. Elevate the consciousness of the world so people don't see differences. So they see the consequences of our actions. So we all see the consequences of our actions, the things that we do that impact other people. It's shocking in this day and age how many people are walking around not thinking about that. You see what you're doing and the impact it's having? It doesn't mean that we don't need to have boundaries. We do. But this is a world that requires us to, again, get above body consciousness, our individual body consciousness. And that's what these rules are about. When we can rise above our body consciousness, we're manifesting our soul consciousness. We're manifesting the best version of ourselves and actually changing the world. One soul at a time. Okay, everybody, we're out of time. Love you all. Shabbat shalom.
Thank you. Shabbat
Thank you
shalom.
all. Thank you all for your
Thank you.
participation.